We're back to the Jerry Agar Show on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
We've had stories of people doing what my wife and I did, which was we drove to Buffalo in order to fly to Kansas City rather than fly from here. Flying back seemed to be a little bit less of an issue, so I flew back. My wife flew differently, and I flew directly back to Toronto to come to work, and then she eventually flew to Buffalo and brought the car home. But we were just trying to do an end run around the airport, and I think some people are just abandoning the idea of flying altogether. Baggage issues, lineups at the airports, canceled flights, all that stuff, and maybe just deciding to road trip. And joining me to talk about this, the founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law, Nainesh Kotak. How are you this morning?
I'm great. It's good to be on again.
All right. So are you getting out the folding map and packing some sandwiches?
I tell you what, I've had the airport experience recently flying in New York, and while I was there, I said, my gosh, why didn't I drive, right? So I can sympathize with a lot of people.
Well, we're looking at a trip to Texas, and this morning I even looked at the train because Becky's going to take the train for a trip to Chicago. You go Buffalo to Chicago in about the same amount of time it would take to drive, but it would take me 2 days on the train, which is too long. But my point here, Nainesh, is I looked into it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. There's a couple of things, Jerry, and, it's great. Family bonding is fantastic. You get out in the car, and, if you're traveling out of province or you're going to the United States. But there's obviously a few things to sort of watch out for. Obviously your vehicle needs to be prepared for it. You have your GPS or your map, so you sort of know where you're going. But one thing I think that we sometimes forget about is insurance. What if the unforeseen happens?
Right.
So, in Ontario, we have what's called a two-tier system. We have a no-fault system that pays basic benefits, income replacement, medical rehabilitation, attendant care if it's that serious. And we have a fault system. If your injuries are serious and permanent, if you can prove that, you can get money for pain and suffering, and also, in addition, future income loss. The issue sometimes is, you're traveling to the United States. They may not have, in certain states, a mandatory auto insurance regime. So you might get in an accident with someone who has no auto insurance, or maybe who has policy limits of as little as $50,000. That could leave you really, not uncompensated, quite frankly, if you're hurt in an accident there due to somebody else's fault. We carry here in Ontario, there's a minimum of $200,000. Most people will carry a liability policy of greater than that. Hopefully, $1 million or $2 is I think it would be very prudent. So what happens if you're involved in an accident with an underinsured driver in Canada or the United States, then your insurance company will pick up that difference up to your policy limit. So you run the risk if you have a low policy limit of 200 or something that you're not going to get adequate coverage. The other thing to know is that, look, yes, in the United States, we see their court awards are higher in certain cases and even auto cases. But, if there's no insurance, then you're not going to get paid. Secondly, if you have a low third-party liability policy and you get in an accident, you're in an unfamiliar road, it's dark, and you cause the accident, you hurt somebody there and get sued, the award that they get may be greater than your policy limit, if you only have $200,000. So I would advise, people, if you're traveling, always look at the auto insurance and obviously travel insurance. Hospital stays in the United States, they're really expensive. And if you're traveling, for example, to Mexico, somewhere else that's not either Canada or the United States, then your auto insurance policy is not going to cover you in the event you're in a car accident. So if you're renting a car, for example, then you'd want to buy the coverage through your credit card or directly through the rental company so that you're covered in terms of compensation for any of your injuries and if you cause injury to somebody else. So those are some helpful tips for people who would be traveling by car in the United States or out of province.
I'm with the founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law, Nainesh Kotak. More people looking at road trips because of airport problems. I don't know how the price of gas is going to factor into that, but it's just that if you're going to be doing the road tripping, know whether you're covered or not. See, I always assume when I've rented a car, I have auto insurance and I'm covered when I rent a car. I've checked with my insurance agent to make sure. I'm not going to double up on insurance, but maybe next time I make a road trip, it wouldn't hurt to make another call and just say, look, here's what I'm going to be doing. Here's the states I'm going to be traveling in, or especially if you're going to be in another country other than the U.S., and just ask questions.
Yeah, it's very important. And keep in mind that many credit cards will give you the insurance, right, for renting a car, and you don't want to double up then and buy the rental car company's one, but then at least know what your credit card will cover. Is there going to be a massive deductible if you total that car? Are they going to pay it, or is there going to be a deductible and a big battle with the rental car company, for example? And certainly, again, with your auto insurance, you want to check with your broker for compensation for injury. Do I have enough? If I cause an accident, if I'm injured and I'm away. So I think, have that peace of mind, because, it's chances are nothing's going to happen. But when it does, that's when you really can face the consequences and not just ruin a vacation, but ruin yourself financially as well.
Well, okay, but financially, how much extra money might you be pumping out in order to have yourself fully covered like that?
Yeah, you'd be surprised, Jerry. So, our basic auto insurance coverage in Ontario is excessive in terms of cost. There's no question. And from the lack of benefits that we're given, it is too high. However, to increase the options, to increase your liability from, to $2 million, for example, or add extra medical rehabilitation, it actually doesn't cost very much. You're looking maybe a couple $100 to do that. So, I always recommend people, talk to your broker, have that conversation. Well, what would it cost if I had this little extra coverage? You'd be so surprised how little it costs, simply because our basic coverage is so expensive in the first place.
What if you have CAA?
Yeah, so look, think about this. I mean, CAA, they do auto insurance. They do provide insurance as well. And at the end of the day, they would have sort of an underwriting company or what you call independent adjusting company to deal with a claim. I don't know fully if what they would cover in terms of an auto accident any different than another auto insurance. I don't know. Obviously, they do provide driver assistance, roadside assistance, these types of things that are obviously very important if you need to be towed, wherever you are, right? So I think it's certainly great to have. But in terms of their coverage for an auto claim, I think it would be similar as another policy that you would buy.
All right. So we're talking about the aspects of what you might need to be covered for regarding driving activity. But what about health insurance? I don't think if I suddenly fall sick in Mississippi, I don't think OHIP helps me out.
No, you'll get the bare minimum, and that's it. Absolutely, travel insurance is crucial, and that can be obtained, from CAA, for example, or from any other insurer that provides it. When you buy your tickets, for example, if you are taking a train or you're flying, you can always look and compare, even through your credit card company. A lot of employers have, group medical plans where there's travel insurance as part of it as well. So it's important to sort of know where you're covered. And I would say this: carry that card with you. Let your spouse or family member who you're going with also carry that card with them, so that if you end up having to go to the hospital, it's easily accessible to be given to the hospital there. So they do give you the treatment that you're going to need, and they can communicate with the insurance provider. And if flights have to be arranged to bring you back home, that can be done expeditiously. Because the worst part will be scrambling. Well, who's our insurance? Who do we call? That will cause a lot of stress and take up a lot of time, and it could affect the treatment you receive as well.
What went wrong on your trip to New York?
You know what? Actually, it was a fantastic trip to New York. I must say that. We had dinner reservations at 9:30 at a particular restaurant, and things were timed which would give us 3 hours landing in New York. Of course, we were about 2.5 hours delayed. We made it in the nick of time, maybe 2 minutes after the reservation time. So it worked out with a lot of stress. But I saw a lot of people around approaching the Air Canada, for example, counter, which was Air Canada, complaining with their flights had been canceled. Mine, luckily, we thought it was going to be, but it was pushed a couple of hours. So it was a tough experience, but not as bad as others have been having, I think.
Yeah, well, people have missed flights. I mean, the last time I was flying, there were people all around me. I had some delay, but I was going to be able to get home. And my wife had that situation where she eventually got home, but it took the entire day. Her entire day, basically, was sitting around an airport waiting for, rather than a morning flight she was supposed to be on, an evening flight, and people's patience is wearing thin, and they start to snap, and then the people working for the airline get frustrated, and it's a bad situation all around. But if we do some planning ahead in terms of our insurance for both automobile and health, we'll be a lot better off, I'm sure. So I appreciate this. The founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law, Nainesh Kotak. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
This is the iHeartRadio Talk Network.